we are going to talk about 21 books that I would like to read in 2021. This is actually going to be part of the 13 Days of Christmas Day challenges that Beth from BooksNest and Lauren from an Instagram account that I have forgotten the name of. It's in the description below. Please go and check it out. It looks like a lot of fun. So today is the 18th of December and it is T for tradition. Tradition that people on BookTube like to do is to tell you books that they are planning or would like to read in the following year. So I thought let's go with that as a tradition because that is a video that I would like to make and it's one that people do quite a lot, so I thought it would be fun. 21 books I would like to read in 2021. As you guys are no doubt aware, I am not really very good at being up to date with books that are being released, certainly not being up to date with books that are about to be released. So this isn't a 21 books that I know are coming out in 2021 that I would like to read. This is just a bunch of books that I really want to get to in 2021. There is one book that I know is coming out next year that I would like to read that I'm super excited about. The rest of these books are definitely not 2021 releases. Some of them are releases from this year, 2020, but some of them are classics, and yeah, there's just a bunch of books that I would really like to get to, either because I'm surprised I haven't read them yet, or they're follow-up in series, or series that I really want to start that I've been hearing some great things about that I think I'd really enjoy. Let's just talk about those books, shall we? So I thought that I would start with the book that is actually coming out in 2021, and that is a book that is called, sorry I have my phone with all the info, Seven Sisters by Neil Gaiman. This is apparently a follow-up book from Neverwhere, also by Neil Gaiman, which I thought was a standalone. I had no idea that it was going to have a sequel, but apparently it now will have a sequel, which I am super excited about. Neverwhere is one of my favourite books of all time. It is my favourite Neil Gaiman book, and yeah, I'm just super excited to have another book coming out next year, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I think that I'm actually going to pre-order it, which is not something I've ever done before, like literally never done that before, but I think that I will pre-order it because I'm so excited. So for those of you that don't know, Neverwhere is a book about two different Londons. So you have the regular London that we all know, and then you have the kind of magical London, or the London where the people that fall through the cracks end up. And yeah, so it's about Richard Mayhew, who is a citizen of regular old London, who one day, I'm not going to spoil, but one day he does something and interacts with a person from London Below, as it's known, and that changes everything for him, and he has this great adventure in London Below. So that's all I'll say, but if you want more information about my thoughts and why I love it so much and a bit more about the book, go over to my favourite standalone video. I will link that below so you can go and check that out. That tells you a lot more about that there. Seven Sisters is the next one. I don't really know much about it. I don't know if it follows Richard Mayhew again, or if it follows a totally different story but set in the same world, or if it's a companion with the same storyline from a different point of view. I have no idea. All I know is that apparently it is a sequel to Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. That's all I needed to know. So super excited about that one. Alright, so now I'm going to go through them. They're not in any particular order. There's not, I haven't put them into genre or anything like that. So we'll just go down the list. The next book that I really want to read in 2021 is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, because I actually don't think I've read it, which I'm a little surprised about because I was pretty sure that I had read all of the Jane Austen. Now, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, and Emma I have read more than once. Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility I've read multiple times. Emma I've read, I think, 3 or 4 times. Persuasion I've definitely read, but I've only read it once. And Mansfield Park I've only read once as well. But Northanger Abbey I don't think I've actually read. And it only occurred to me very recently when I watched a few different people talk about Northanger Abbey on their channels. And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't think I've read that. I really should go on and read that. So I am pretty sure that those people were, well, definitely Murphy Napier. I'm pretty sure Victoria from What Victoria Read, and I'm pretty sure Simone from Me, Simone and I. I will link their channels in the description below. Correct me if I'm wrong, any of you people, if you happen to watch this video, but I'm pretty sure those are the people. But anyway, their channels are linked in the description. So yeah, I really want to read Northanger Abbey. It sounds amazing, partly because I just love Jane Austen. I love all the other books of Jane Austen's that I've read. I am surprised I haven't read it, and I feel like I probably should rectify that. I feel like I should probably add at this point that none of these books are rereads for me. So this is a video all about books that I really want to read for the first time. I might do a books I'd like to reread in 2021 video, but that's not what this is. So anyway, the next book is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is a book that I put in my 2020 list of classics that I really wanted to read this year, which I didn't read. In fact, almost none of the books on that list I read, but you'll find out more about that when I talk about my goals and do a reflection, which will be up at some point in December, I think, or maybe early January. Anyway, yes, so I didn't read it, and I'm still really intrigued to read it. I'd still really like to read it. It sounds like it's something I would enjoy a lot. I actually watched the BBC miniseries with Richard Armitage and someone else who was amazing, but I can't remember her name, and it was great. I really enjoyed it, so now I'd like to go back and read the original book. I was going to say I don't really know much about it, but I obviously do because I watched the series, but I don't really know how to describe it. So it's about a young woman whose father, I'm not sure if he acquires the ownership of a factory in the Midlands in the UK, or whether he becomes a manager of them. I'm not sure. But either way, she moves to the Midlands. I'm not sure which. Might be York, maybe, I don't know, maybe Manchester. Probably not important. Anyway, so she moves there with her father, and then she, sort of gets herself involved in various different things that are going on, including union stuff. I'm really not describing this very well. It's a classic. It sounds interesting. I want to read it. So next one is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell, I'm pretty sure, but it'll be here so you can see. So this is one that I'm pretty sure came out in 2020, earlier in 2020, and I've seen quite a lot of people talk about it, and most people have really enjoyed it. Connor from Connor's Library Corner, who you guys would know, a good friend of mine, he, I don't think did enjoy it, I should say, but I think that was due to the content rather than the actual writing. So it sounds really interesting. I'm really keen to read it. I don't really know very much about it. I mean, I've heard people talk about it, but everyone tries not to give spoilers. But I believe that it is a book about a woman, Vanessa, who when she's in her possibly late 20s, possibly early 30s, hears about an old teacher of hers who has been charged or something has happened, and he has been accused of having an affair with one of his students, which is obviously not good for a number of reasons, one of his high school students. And she then is sort of remembering when she actually had a relationship with him when she was in high school, and it's about her having to sort of change her perspective from thinking of this in a romantic way to thinking about this as a possibly abusive relationship. So it sounds like it's going to be really dark and heavy hitting and possibly difficult to read, but it also sounds like it's going to be really interesting and really well written, and that's certainly what I've heard. So I'm definitely keen to read it. Another book that Murphy Napier has loved this year. Next up, we have Moon Over Soho by Ben Aronovich. So this is the second book to the Rivers of London series that I started last year, I think. And I've been meaning to read the second book for the entire year, and I just haven't quite got there yet. But yeah, so it's on the list. It's a priority. I really want to continue with that series. I know that Leanne from Literary Diversions really, really enjoys the series and has spoken about how amazing it is. I should now say that I've now mentioned quite a few booktubers, probably will continue to mention quite a few. They will all be in the description below. You should go and check all of them out. If I'm talking about them here, I probably trust them pretty well and probably think they're pretty amazing. So definitely go check them out and subscribe. Yes, so I really want to continue with that series. Next up, we have A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. So I bought this one a while ago on my e-reader because I had heard that it was amazing and it came up for reasonably priced. On the e-reader, I've heard by many different people that it's really fantastic. It sounds really interesting. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and apparently it has fantastic disability rep. Our main character has cystic fibrosis, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong again, please. Yeah, so apparently that's amazing and it sounds really cool. It sounds really interesting. I love Beauty and the Beast, so I don't think I've read many, if in fact any, retellings of Beauty and the Beast, but I definitely would like to read some, and I definitely want to read this one. The next one is one that I'm a little bit embarrassed about, to be completely honest with you, and that is The Murder of Mary Russell by L'Oreal King. So in my favourite series of all time video, again linked in the description, I did say that the Mary Russell series by L'Oreal King was one of my favourite series of all time. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is what I said was my second. It's certainly what I feel today. But I've not finished the series. Partly because I started reading the series when I lived with my good friend Rachel and she owned them all, and so I was reading her books. I'm not a person who thinks that I should own a series of books even if I adore them whilst I have access to them in the house, but because they are so amazing and I love them, I wanted to purchase them. So recently I've been on a bit of a must own these books that I love binge last couple of years. So I bought them, and I bought the more recent ones that I haven't read. So the Murder of Mary Russell is one of those. I think there's another 3 that I haven't read, and that's just simply because, as I've said in this video, as I've said many times, as I'm sure you know, I just am not, I don't keep up with when books come out, even when it's an author I adore, even when it's a series I adore. I don't tend to keep up with things. I tend to kind of just go with what I find, and yeah, so I'm a little embarrassed, but I haven't read it and I really want to. So that's the next book that I want to read sometime next year. Next up, we have Hollowpox. Now, if you've been around for a little while, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you would know that I read Nevermore in November. I am currently reading Wondersmith, and I don't think I'll get to Hollowpox by next year, but I actually think I'll probably pick it up pretty quickly next year because I'm really enjoying the series. They're really fun, they're really easy to read, they're really fast paced, they're really engaging, they're just fantastic. The author is Jessica Townsend. We follow our main character, Morrigan Crow, who is, where she lives, is considered a cursed child, which means that she's fated to die on her 11th birthday, but also all not so good stuff that happens around her is said to be because she's a cursed child. On her 11th birthday, instead of dying, she is taken by a man called Jupiter North into a parallel world, is what I think it's supposed to be, called Nevermore, and there she is put forward as a candidate to join the Wondrous Society. And it's about her going through the trials to go in the Wondrous Society, making some great friends, and just having a really interesting, fun time. So that's mostly Nevermore. And then what I've read so far of Wondersmith, I don't know why I keep forgetting what it's called, but Wondersmith, it's sort of more of the same, and Hollowpox will be more of the same. But yeah, I think they're really great fun. I'm really enjoying them. Gave Nevermore 5-star, probably will give Wondersmith 5 stars. They're just so much fun. You should read them. They're just amazing. Then we also have Frostheart 2, which is the second book in the series Frostheart, written by Jamie Littler. This is another middle grade book that I read in November, so I read both Nevermore and Frostheart for Believeathon, which is an amazing middle grade readathon that I went in November, hosted by Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin. Again, links in the description. Go and check him out. Go check Believeathon out. Not 100% sure when the next one comes up, but I think there's one earlier in the year and one later in the year. But yeah, middle grade readathon, lots of fun. So I read Frostheart because it's Gavin's favourite book. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well written. Again, really well paced, really fun, just great. Just great. I'd like to read the second one. I think it came out relatively recently, so I feel like I'd actually be not super far behind everybody if I read that, unlike most of the books on this one. But yeah, that's something I'd like to read relatively soon as well. Then we have An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. So this is another book that I hauled throughout this year, earlier this year I believe, and I just haven't quite got there yet. I'm really keen to read it. I just really love Hank Green. I think he's just a great person. I mean, I don't really know him obviously, but I watch various different YouTube things that he does, and he just seems like a fun, funny, fantastic person. I've heard some pretty amazing things about An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. I've heard that it's really fun, it's a bit silly, it's funny, it's really well written, and yeah, I'm really excited to read it. I think that I'll really, really enjoy it. And then I'm anticipating racing off to buy An Absolutely Foolish Endeavour, I think, or Beautiful Endeavour. I'm not 100% sure. Whatever the second one is called. I don't tend to buy in bulk like that. I mean, that's obvious. What I mean is I tend to buy the first one in a series and then see. It's not always the case, obviously, but that's what I've done here anyway. So we'll see how we go. The next thing that I have on the list is not actually one book, but a series of books that I'm planning on starting, if not late in December, very early in January. It's not on my current December TBR, so it'll depend on how it goes, but holidays start in a couple of weeks, so I'm anticipating having quite a bit more time. So I'm intending to start relatively soon Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and then I'm really anticipating really enjoying it because almost everyone that I have seen talk about this book, that have spoken to about this book, loves it. So I'm anticipating really, really loving it. I read Skyward and Starsight earlier in the year and loved them. So I'm anticipating, yeah, like I said, really enjoying the series. Next up, we have Pride by Ibi Zoboi. So this is I didn't tell you anything about the Stormlight Archives, mostly because I don't know anything really very much. Everybody is very good at not telling what the books are about. I know that it's epic fantasy, high epic fantasy, in the same sort of vein as the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. That's almost all I know about it, even though I hear people talk about it all the time. Anyway, so then I moved on to Pride by Ibi Zoboi. So this is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I love Pride and Prejudice. It is one of my favourite books of all time. So this is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, which sounds amazing, and I'm really excited to read it. So it is set somewhere in the States, I feel like New York maybe, and it is about gentrification essentially. I'm really excited about it. It sounds incredible. I've heard a few people talk about it and they all said that it was amazing. Next up, we have Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. Again, this probably could just be the Wayward Children series. This is another book or series of books that I have heard nothing but incredible things about. Every person that I have seen talk about this book or this series of books absolutely loves them. Then we have Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a little bit out of my normal sort of book. I mean, I do occasionally read contemporary romance type books, and when I do, I usually quite enjoy them, but they're not my go-to. But this one sounds incredible. Again, everyone that I have seen talk about this book has absolutely loved it. There is also Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and I think another one. Yeah, I know that another one's come out, but I can't think what it's called. But anyway, they follow the Brown sisters. Get a Life, Chloe Brown is about Chloe. I think she's the eldest Brown sister, and she has a chronic illness which has meant that she's tended to, look after her health and not to sort of live as fully as she could. And so she decides that she wants to go and live more fully and not let it kind of hold her down anymore. That's what I know about the book. Yeah, I've heard amazing things about it. I've heard the disability rep is incredible. I've heard that even the smut is pretty good. I'm not a huge smut fan, but you know, bit of smut every now and then doesn't hurt anyone. Yeah, so I'm really excited to read it. As I said, I plan at this stage, but we have planned a couple of times and it's fallen through. But at this stage, I'm planning on reading that in January, as well as part of a buddy read with my friend Rachel and hopefully my friend Max. So I'll keep you posted on that one. But yeah, that was the next one on the list. Next up, we have another book that was released this year that I have heard nothing but amazing things about, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab is another author even, that I've not read anything from. All the people that I have seen, that's not true. Most of the people that I've seen talk about V.E. Schwab love V.E. Schwab. Every single person, even people that aren't huge fans of V.E. Schwab who have read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, have raved about how amazing it is. I really want to read this book. It sounds incredible. Basic storyline is about a woman called Addie who, I think 1400s maybe, makes a deal with the devil so that now how does it work? So that she will live forever, but the flip side, the thing she has to give up is people remembering her, basically. So she lives forever, but no one ever remembers her. Sounds really cool. It sounds really interesting. I'm super interested to read V.E. Schwab, and why not start with the book that everybody loves. Next up, we have Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This is a book that I bought earlier this year and haven't quite got around to reading. I'm still really keen to read it. I haven't heard people talk about it much recently. Not 100% sure when it was released, but I think reasonably last couple of years anyway. Yeah, and I just heard that it's really good, and earlier this year people were talking about it a lot, so that's why I think it came out reasonably recently. Most people that I have seen talk about it really enjoyed it. It's basically an urban domestic mystery type of book. I don't really know much more about it than that. I don't really want to know much more about it than that, to be honest with you. But yeah, it does sound right up my alley. That's a kind of contemporary book that I really like, where there's an element of mystery, domestic secret stuff going on. So yeah, I'm super excited to read that one, and I would really like to get to it in 2021. Then we have A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. As you guys would know, if you've been around for a little while, I read An Ember in the Ashes in, I think it was October. Was it September? It was either September or October. I read it for Becca from Becca and the Books' Bookopoly readathon. It was really great. I really enjoyed it. Not my favourite book of all time or even of the year, but I did have a really great time reading it, and I went ahead and bought the other books. I believe the next one is coming out in January. It's definitely worth continuing with because I did quite enjoy, so I'm hoping to read that one in the 2021 as well. Next up, we have a book that I've put on a few different TBRs and just not quite managed to get to, and that is What Alice Forgot by Liane Moriarty. Liane Moriarty is an author that I really, really like. One of my favourite standalones of all time is Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. I've read most of her books, but What Alice Forgot is one, like I said, I put it on a number of different TBRs and just not quite got there yet. There's no particular reason. I'm definitely interested in reading it. It sounds really good, but it just hasn't been a priority, obviously. So this book is about a woman who, I'm not sure how old, but I'd say probably early 30s, she's pregnant, her baby's due, something happens and she wakes up suddenly one day and it's 10 years later and she has 2 children. Everything's changed for her and she has no memory of the last 10 years. Everything that she remembers is just before she was about to have her first child. Yeah, it just sounds really intriguing and I'm really interested to see what is going on there. Only 3 more to go, guys. Well done for sticking around this long. Next up, we have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. As you guys know, again, if you've been around for a little while, I read Ninth House earlier this year and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. It was my favourite book of the year until I read The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. It's still up there. It's still one of my favourite books that I read this year. I just really want to try more Leigh Bardugo. I'm intrigued to see what else she's got to offer. So I know there's quite a lot of different books around. Most of them are young adult in her fantasy world, the Grishaverse. And I recently won a giveaway from the Because We Can Readathon for one of the videos that I put up. I will link all of those in the description below. They had a bunch of different challenge videos. So anyway, I went in that, and recently I won the giveaway, and I was offered that I could have them pay for and send me any book that I would like. So I decided to go for Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo because, like I said, I'm intrigued to read more of her work. So definitely want to read that next year. I am excited. Next up is another book that I've put on a few different TBRs this year, and I've been meaning to read it all year. And again, I just haven't quite got around to it yet. Other things have popped up instead, and that is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by somebody Danforth. Mary? I feel really bad for having forgotten this. I will put it here so that you can see. Anyway, whoever it is, someone Danforth. So this is a book about a young teenage girl, a teenage girl, who is sent to one of those re-education camps that I don't really know much about. Basically, a person who is queer is sent to one of these re-education camps where they try to make them not to be queer and be straight instead. But yeah, I've heard that it's really interesting and a really good book. I don't really know much about it other than that. I first saw this book talked about by Emma from Drinking by My Shelf, and she loved it, and that's another person whose opinion I trust very much, and it just sounds really interesting, so I'd like to read that one. And the last book on the 21 books to read in 2021 is Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. I have never read any books by Octavia E. Butler. I have been hearing about how amazing she is for quite a long time, but particularly a lot this year, and I'd really like to read some of her books. So I have Kindred and I'd like to give it a read. Another book I don't know a huge amount about. From what I understand, it is about a young black woman living in the States who at various points throughout the book is sent back in time, and when she's sent back in time, it's during the time of slavery, and she encounters a young white man, and I think she has a number of different interactions with him, and on many of those she saves his life, or maybe she just saves his life once, but then she's constantly back with him. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's supposed to be fantastic. It's supposed to be a very intense, scathing book about slavery, but it's supposed to be amazing, and I'm super excited to read it. So that is my 21 books that I would like to read in 2021. Have you read any of these books? If you have, what did you think of them? Are there any of the books on this list that you would like to read? Which ones are they? Please comment below and let me know your thoughts. If you stuck around till the very end of this video, thank you very much. Please give me an emoji, something booky. Some kind of book emoji to let me know that you were here and that you stuck around. All of the booktubers that I talked about are in the description below. All of the books are in the description below. All of my Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads, all of that are in the description below. So if you want to contact me via any other platform, be friends with me, that'd be awesome. Please do so. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.